Alright guys, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to take a look at Vapi call analysis and how you can set up end of call reports with Vapi. Analyzing your calls and understanding how the agent is performing and how people are engaging with your agent is really useful for making improvements over time, and it's actually really simple to set up. So in this video, we're going to take a look at two examples. The first is just a basic setup where you're going to create a call summary. You're going to do some basic analysis, whether it's a pass or fail, and then you're going to send that information to a Google Sheet. The second example is a little bit more advanced, and this is where we're going to add additional prompts to analyze the call transcripts to go that little bit level deeper in understanding. And we're also going to look at how you can extract key pieces of information. So this is really useful if you want to get a really deeper understanding of how your agent is interacting, but also take those pieces of information that they're sharing and send that to a Google Sheet. So let's take a look at the first example and I'll show you how to set this up. Okay, so I'm in my Vapi dashboard here, and for this example, I'm going to use an agent that is set up for a gym. So basically, this is an agent that would call up past members of this gym, offer them a discount to rejoin, and engage them in a conversation to see if they'll actually come back to the gym. So it's a pretty basic flow in this conversation, and basically the analysis we want to do is maybe capture the summary of the call and understand if it was a success or failure, if they wanted to rejoin or not. So to do this, what we're going to do is head over to analysis. You can see here we have three areas that we can fill in, and Vapi has already provided these prompts. So for this example, we're going to keep it super basic and just keep exactly what they have here. So this first one is going to be a prompt just analyzing the total summary of the call. So you can imagine this as basically you're handing the transcript, the entire phone conversation, over to ChatGPT, and you're just asking it to summarize it. So whatever you add in here, it's basically going to be the prompt for that LLM or ChatGPT to basically analyze that call. So what they have here is perfect. It works for this use case. Next, we're going to just look at the success evaluation. So as I mentioned, for this one, it's going to be success or fail. Like, did they want to rejoin or did they not? So we can actually choose from some different success evaluations here. You can see it's a scale of 1 to 10, descriptive scales, checklists, lots of different ones to choose from. For this one, we're going to go with pass fail. So was the call a success or was it a failure? And basically with this prompt that's already here, the transcript of the call will be passed to, again, a ChatGPT or something to analyze what was happening in the transcript. And then based on that, was it a success or failure? The last one we're going to leave for now. We're going to get to that in the advanced section. So this is where you can actually start to extract different pieces of data from that conversation, but we're going to look at that in a second. So essentially all we're doing here is just keeping these two prompts the same, and we're just choosing what our success evaluation is going to be. What we need to do next is head over to Make. And inside of Make, we're going to just create a new scenario. And this is going to be a very basic setup that works for both sides. So we want to pass information from Vapi, from our assistant, to Make. And to do that, we're just going to use a custom webhook. We're going to give this a name. So for this, it's going to be, okay, so Aspire Fitness, end of call report, save. And we're going to take this link, then copy this link, head back over to Vapi, and under advanced, if you scroll down here, you can see server URL. And basically this is how Vapi will send messages. So you can see here, this is used for retrieving context, function calling, and end of call reports. So essentially we can paste this link in here, and you can ignore client messages. You don't actually need that for a kind of specific use case, but under server messages, these are the pieces of information that we're going to send back and forth through that webhook. So under this, you can actually turn off all of these. We don't need this information. We only need end of call report for this example. So once that's done, I'm just going to click publish, and I'm going to jump back over to Make. So essentially we've created the link between our assistant and Make, but what do we actually want to do with that information? So in this example, we might want to add it to a Google Sheet, or we could maybe send it via email. So let's look at those two examples. Okay, so for this example, I've just set up a very basic Google Sheet. I've given it a few columns here. So the date and time of when the call happened, what was the name of the person, whether they're interested or not, so we can gauge who to follow up with afterwards. A column for the call summary. So this is where the summary of the call will actually be exported to. And then we're going to link to the recording URL if someone wants to actually go back and listen to that call. It'll be easy to access there. So let's actually connect this up to our webhook. So we've added a Google Sheet module here. It's add a row, and we just basically need to find our Google Sheet here. Okay, so once you've actually located your Google Sheet from the drive, you can select the sheet name, and then you can see that the table headers, whatever columns that you've added, are going to automatically be populated here. But in order to actually transfer information so we can actually start to match the columns here, we need to actually send some information from our assistant through this webhook. And to do that, we're just going to have a basic conversation and get some of that information passing through. So let's jump over to Vapi. Let's talk to our assistant, and we can start to send some of that information. Okay, so once you've actually had the conversation with your assistant, you'll see that the end of call has been triggered, and some of that information is already being passed through the webhook. We can open up the message here and we can see the different pieces of information. So once that's done, you can go back into your Google Sheet module, and what you want to do then is start to map this information that's come from the webhook into the right column that you've built out in your Google Sheet. Okay, so for this first one, it's going to be date and time. And for this, we can actually go with the started at. So whenever the call began, we can map that field there. For name, we're going to leave blank. This is supposed to be an outbound caller that would have the list of leads. So we'd import the name there. But for this example, we're just going to keep that blank. For interested, we're actually going to use the analysis success evaluation that we added just before. So whether it was a pass or fail, in this case, since you expressed an interest in signing up, it's going to analyze the call, and it's going to be true or false if someone declines. Then for call summary, we have this here under analysis. Again, you can just highlight summary. And then for the recording URL, just down here, we can map that field there. So that's it. We basically now have a very simple call analysis setup where that information from the call is being extracted, it's being sent to a Google Sheet. If you wanted to go one step further here, you could add maybe a Gmail module, so send an email. So if you wanted to forward that information to a client and structure all that information in a simple way, you could do that. But this is a very basic, simple way to just get an insight into what's happening in the calls and log them in an easy way. Just as a reminder as well, under your Vapi dashboard, you actually always have access to this information under logs. So if you click into logs and go to calls, you can actually expand any of these calls. You will see here you have the full transcript of the conversation. You have the analysis here as well. And you also have recordings that you can listen back to. So again, really useful if you want to understand how your agent is responding and how it's managing those conversations. And essentially, this is the information that you're taking from Vapi and you're sending it to your Google Sheet. Okay, now what if you wanted to go one step further? If you wanted to actually analyze the conversation a little bit deeper, maybe extract some important information that's been exchanged between the agent and the caller. So for this example, I'm going to look at this demo agent that I've set up, and essentially this agent is asking people about their experience with collecting customer feedback, and then it's explaining how it could help manage that task by calling interested or calling past customers, engaging them in a conversation, and collecting user feedback that way. So we have different questions that we're asking here. For example, how often would you usually gather customer feedback? What would you say is your biggest blocker in collecting feedback? It's then going to transition into asking for feedback on the demo experience itself. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience with my demonstration? How would you rate the naturalness of the conversation? Would you trust me to handle these calls on your company's behalf? and what's one improvement that you would suggest for me to make it more effective. So this is a demo assistant. It's going to ask this caller information, and obviously I want to be able to extract that information from the call. So let's look at how we would set this up. So if we go over to our analysis tab, you can see that I've actually just added in a custom prompt here. It's not too dissimilar from the one that we looked at before. It's basically just giving me a little bit more control over how that summary will look. So in this case, I'm just saying you'll be giving a summary of a call of a customer engaging with our demo assistant Clarity. Please provide a short summary of the conversation, make it max 5 sentences. So pretty simple. For this next success evaluation, we've actually asked for a rating. So rate this conversation between 1 and 10. So in this case, we're actually going to use a numeric scale, which will give us a little bit more insight into that rating that they give. And again, the prompt is pretty similar. So you're an expert call evaluator. You will be given the transcript of the call. Please determine if it was a success based on the objectives inferred from the system prompt. So this last step is really where you get a lot of the value from. So as I mentioned, in those questions that we're asking, we have different pieces of information that we want to extract. So I want to take the caller's name. I want to understand how often they're collecting customer feedback. I want to collect the feedback blockers that they mentioned. So for example, time and resources or low response rates. So I'm basically just outlining in the prompt, these are the different pieces of information that I want to collect. I want to collect general satisfaction ratings. I want to get their rating on how natural the conversation was and any suggested improvements that they make as well. So I'm essentially just laying all that information out, and I'm telling the prompt or the AI what to look for in the prompt. And then I'm just specifying at the end, if there's no rating or if it's not given, just leave it empty. So pretty simple in terms of the prompt. Underneath here, then I'm just basically marking that data that I want to extract. So name, trust, rating, questions, naturalness, suggestions. And for each one of these, it's either going to be a string, which is basically just a piece of text, or if it's going to be a rating, it's going to be a number. So essentially you can just explain in the prompt exactly what those pieces of information are to look out for, and then mark in the structured data that you want to extract in the ratings here. You'll also give each one of these a description, so it's a little bit more context for what the AI should look for when it's going through the transcript and looking for those different points. So this is basically the setup. In order to extract that information, we're using the same method. So here we have our webhook pasted in, we have our end of call report highlighted. So essentially the setup is the exact same. We have the webhook connected to a Google Sheet. And this time we have a few more columns that we're taking. So you can see here we have the date and time started at. For this I have name. So where we want to find this information once we've set that up is actually under analysis. So if you look under analysis, you can see summary, structured data, and success evaluation. Under structured data, you can see we have all those properties that we listed inside our Vapi dashboard are actually listed here, and you can go ahead and basically just click each one of these and map them to those fields. So what does that actually look like when it's mapped to the Google Sheet? So you can see here the date and time stamp is marked, the caller's name is imported, how often they do feedback, whatever response they gave is going to be matched to that field. What are their biggest blockers? I've then asked it for, this is where our scale comes in, so what was the demo rating? And basically if you want to just spice things up here, add some conditional formatting, make it look nice, and have a little bit more insight into what the data is. So essentially this is it. This is all those fields that we looked at, all those properties that we marked in our Vapi analysis section. These are all just mapped to an individual field, and once the call is conducted, the end of call report is triggered, all of these steps or all of these pieces of information will be mapped to this Google Sheet. Okay, so that's it. I hope you found that useful. You now basically have an insight into how to do very basic call analysis, just extracting summaries and sending that to Google Sheet. Or if you want to go to maybe a more advanced level, control your prompts, ask the AI to summarize it in particular ways or look out for key pieces of information. and then extract that key data that you want to take out of that call that's really useful for analyzing calls on a deeper level. So I hope that helps. If you found the video useful, I'd appreciate it. Give it a like. If you're interested in this kind of things, voice agents and AI automation, I'm going to be posting more videos, so please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.